They've been called the Excluded. That's the 3 million people across the UK who've not been eligible for meaningful government support during the pandemic. Now, the business leader, philanthropist and founder of Phones for You, John Caudwell, I should say, has sent a letter to the government about the situation. Very pleased to say that Mr Caudwell joins us now on the programme. Great to see you this morning, John. Tell us a little bit.
Yes, good morning.
Tell us a little bit about this voyage of discovery that you have, to an extent, been on. How did you become involved with the Excluded? When did you first become aware of them?
Well, I think I became aware a few months ago, actually, maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, when some of them were including me on social media. But I didn't realise, in all honesty, the severity of the situation. I didn't realise the validity of it. And when I looked into it more and more, I became more convinced that this is something that the government must support. I have two central edicts for this pandemic. One is that people must not be left substantially worse off at the end of this pandemic than they were at the beginning of it. And that the other is that the government must invest massively in a programme that I call CPR, which is to rescue the economy, Caudwell Pandemic Recovery. They are doing a little bit of CPR, but not enough. But up to yet, they've done nothing for the Excluded, and the Excluded is disastrously unfair that these people are being left to struggle, and in some cases are in desperate financial straits. It's causing mental illness, mental health problems, and I believe also suicides. The government really do need to look at this seriously and address the issue.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the list of categories of people who have been affected by this is huge. Those in between jobs are due to start jobs after the 19th of March, the newly self-employed, those who went freelance just before the crisis, long-term self-employed with lower 50k net profits. I mean, the list goes on. Given there has been...
Yeah, the list is about 20 different categories, and it is tragic. And and I've said before, this is complicated because even within the list of 20 categories, there's lots of different personal circumstances. So it is complex for the government. But as I've said endlessly, complexity is no excuse for negligence, and we cannot afford to just turn away from these people just because the situation is complicated, or just because the situation is costly. Because at the end of the day, the government's responsibility is to distribute our tax pounds in a responsible and fair and proper way. And unfortunately, at the moment, this is unfair. Disastrously unfair.
I mean, John, you're a big hitter in the business world with levers to pull that I don't have access to. What are the chances of you getting into the Treasury to speak to Rishi Sunak, who must be aware of these 3 million individuals, yet rarely, if ever, has mentioned them?
Well, I will be speaking to Rishi Sunak in the next day or two. I'm also in communication with Boris on this issue. What are the chances of them doing something? I don't really know, because I really do not understand why they've not done something up to yet. It's very, well, I was going to say it's very rare when politics and what's best for the country aligned. Often they're misaligned. But in this particular case, fairness and the right thing is absolutely aligned with the Tories' ability to be re-elected next time. So I don't understand why they're not doing it, because it gives them a greater chance of being re-elected, but it's the right and proper and fair thing to do.
John, we're just about to run out of time, but just on a personal basis, how have you been doing during the 11 months and 2 weeks of this crisis?
Well, I am very fortunate. There's a lot of the worries that the main public have that I don't have. So I'm very fortunate, but it's still tough for us all. It affects all of us in one way or another, and it's tough for everybody. And the last thing on earth anybody then needs is to be excluded and feel that they're treated unfairly and have that added burden on top of everything else.
Well, I certainly know that from my social media that the Excluded are very pleased to have you in their corner. John Caudwell, good to see you this morning. Thanks for being with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.